So welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Joe Cool Grant.
Oh yeah.
It's not just a video, it's a car video.
It's a car video, yes. So we are just driving home from what we refer to colloquially as BasementCon, which is just a gathering of friends, at a friend's house, a couple states away, and we just play big games the whole weekend. And
have a grand time.
Glorious. We've been doing it for now. This is our third year, I think?
This is BasementCon 3.
BasementCon 3. And this originally started, the impetus was that we would complain online about how we don't have enough players to play big games like Here I Stand, etc. And someone reached out and was like, hey, swear we're not axe murderers, let's get together and play.
And we took a leap of faith and we didn't do background checks, but
nope,
we didn't assume they were axe murderers.
But we met, played, we didn't die, and here we are 4 years later, having done this. So I love BasementCon. We do it kind of in the early spring most years, and it's just a great way to kind of kick off the year because lots of conventions and things and gatherings the rest of the year. But something small, a little bit relaxed, just some friends playing some of those games out there that you can't get just to play it. And so,
well, in some ways, it's kind of our spring kickoff or spring,
I feel like
launch of con season.
Well, and it's that thing where we finish all of our 2022 war games around this time, and it really feels like this is the kick into the new year almost of like gaming, so to speak.
And it is something that I look forward to every year. I mean, we've been talking about this for months.
Yeah. Well, it's what was the last thing we did, right? It was Gen Con, I think.
Yes.
Nothing happens over the winter season that we go to with all holidays and family stuff, and so this is the first thing of the year on the calendar that's big. And it's a blast. So wanted to have a quick chat with you guys about what it is that we did this year. Because I felt like we got in a lot of games this year. And
we did. I mean, we left Thursday morning, so we were able to play a couple of games on Thursday. We got a couple of games on Friday.
And then big game
and then
on
a big game. And actually, they were all big games. We didn't play any games that were, well, the one was short. But
so that's
we do this to get big games.
Yes, that's the goal. Big multiplayer games. However, the drive from Indy down to Missouri where we play goes through St. Louis, and Miniature Market have their kind of flagship brick and mortar store right there. And so the past couple of years we've stopped there, and it's always a blast. I think we stopped there last year for the first time. And they had, it's both a really good game store, like just normal, but also they have all of these, there's a huge Miniature Market ding and dent part where you can get really nice deals on things. And then there's like an open gaming area. If no one's playing, you can go and play there. There's a games library that's sponsored and hosted by
some gaming group,
St. Louis Gaming Group,
Gateway to the West Gaming Group or something, which is kind of cool.
Yes. So we met up with a friend of ours, Brian, who we met last year, and
at Miniature Market. We met up at Miniature Market.
So we did some shopping, bought some cool games. I think we picked up Sales of Glory from a Ding and Dent for $45.
And that's a miniatures game from who again?
Ares Games.
Ares Games.
So it's the Wings of Glory system.
Napoleonics.
But it's in boats and modified.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, that was a recommendation from the YouTube channel, so thank you for whoever suggested that. And then you got from Compass Games
Carrier Battles Philippine Sea.
So that was on a discount. That was nice as well. That's a solo game, right?
It is. I think I paid $60. The list price was like $75.
Yeah.
So
that's one.
Very excited about that one.
That's a 2023 game?
It is. It came out.
That's nice.
I want to say 6-8 weeks ago.
And then some other bits and pieces. I think we got the War of the Ring card game.
Yep.
The new edition of Eclipse.
Which we also played, which was really good.
And then some miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons as well. So it was.
I mean, you can't go there without buying a miniature, right? It's called Miniature Market.
And they have them all on display alphabetically.
And they have one of everything.
It's so cool.
So I think what I bought some slod.
Yes.
So a gray slod, a black slod, 2 red slods, which are big. I bought an anise.
That's a type of hag,
Yep.
witchy type thing.
Yep. And I bought one other, but I don't remember. But you'll need to paint them. And then we'll need to get back to playing our Pathfinder
You
campaign.
bought them, I'll paint them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love, because most of my miniatures, half the time I'm buying them online,
Yeah.
but going to a store and seeing them, it's so much nicer, I find,
Yeah.
from doing shopping
Well, you
like
get
that.
a better feel for scale. I think sometimes online you're like, remember that one hag we bought? It was
we had
tiny.
originally bought an anise, and it ended up being like this big,
Yeah.
but the one from D&D is like, 3 times
Big.
the size at least.
Anises are like the queens of the hag world.
And and it's a great looking mini as well.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So I'll have fun painting that. But yeah, it's hard to not do an annual shop there. It's great. But then we met up with Brian, and we played Land and Freedom from Blue Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new design from someone we'd also met called Alex Knight.
At
We met him
WBC.
at WBC last year, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm designing this game," and lo and behold, Blue Panther just put it out. So it's a semi-cooperative game about the Spanish Civil War. One of you plays as communists, anarchists, and moderates.
So the 2 of those 3 sides have been kind of amalgamated together, right? Like there were multiple groups, but they've kind of boiled them down to just the 3.
Yeah. There's there's obviously tons of sub-factions, but to make a game that is, playable in 60 to 90 minutes.
It was 90 minutes, I think.
Yeah, like it was, sure, you boil some of that down. But it's a game of you all have to fight to win the war, and at the end, if you win the war, whoever has the most glory wins the game. And I'll be honest, I really, really enjoyed that game.
It was very good. And it's not really a true war game, but it's a area control, cooperative, card-driven style game. It was very unique, very interesting.
Yeah, you're playing your cards for either an event, or you're playing them kind of for some ops, and you can play it to your tableau and sometimes trigger morale bonus things. But you're doing that to either add or remove power from these 4 different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose 2 fronts, you lose the war and die. If at the end of turn 3, they're in 3 of them are in the positive, you win. But it's it's a lot of placing and removing things and trying to make these tracks go, so you get some bonuses to do more stuff. So it's a lot of abstraction like that.
And it's a 3-player game.
Yeah, and a 3-player
which is
little
unique
co-op style game.
Yeah.
You are working together, and but you'll also mess each other up by doing certain things. But it was I don't know what I was expecting going into that game, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I kind of was. I had a really good time with it. It was really neat. I was very surprised.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of gamey mechanics, like the matching the icons and taking the morale action.
Yeah.
That was very cool and interesting, very gamey. But it's a card-driven game. I enjoyed that. Yeah,
without being complicated.
No, and it felt like States of Siege because there are 4 fronts.
Yes.
But they don't have lines like a traditional States of Siege. They have adopted in some ways the Kaiserkrieg method of the horizontal, where you just have boxes. Once those boxes get 10 units in them, you're dead.
Yes.
That front is gone.
But if you can get 10 units in there, you win.
Yeah, and it's taken out. Yep.
Yeah,
we almost got 10 a couple of times, but man, that's hard.
Very
Very
but,
hard.
They're powered by a card. You do what it says. Add some guys out. Undo all you did the previous turn. Like it is. You're right. It feels a little bit States of Siege.
A little bit.
Similar feel, at least.
Well,
even though mechanically it's...
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to take that to Buckeye Game Fest, and I know Russ is bringing it, but it was a 90-minute game, so
yeah,
I think we could play that.
Well, and that was our first time playing it. We all read the rules and played it, and it was like,
yeah,
it was great, start to finish. I don't know, it had a really nice, easy learning curve, and
it was enjoyable.
I
thought
fun doing it.
Yeah,
yes,
and I learned a little history and some things that I didn't know. Right?
Yeah, so that was awesome. That was a really nice kind of stop. Then we went on.
We skipped one thing, though.
Did we?
Well, we had a double down.
Oh, that's
KFC.
right. The KFC Double Down is back, everyone. It is the height
This
of...
video is sponsored by KFC.
This is the height of American decadence, and it is the greatest, most awful thing you can ever have.
Well, you eat it, and it's so good going down, but then the next hour and a half, you kind of feel bloated and lazy.
Imagine a sandwich
with
where
no bread.
Instead of buns, it's fried chicken.
Chicken breast.
I got fried chicken, cheese, bacon, mayo, fried chicken.
So good.
And
it was around like 8 or 10 years ago, but it's been gone.
Yeah, they got rid of it.
And we were like, there was a KFC right there. We went, we did it.
They thought the country's mortality rate is too low.
Yep.
We got to fix it. Double Down.
Double Down.
And it is the greatest sandwich of all time. I'm never going to eat another one.
I just feel like it was something we needed to mention.
It was a moment.
Yeah, it was a moment. If our wives were with us, we probably wouldn't have gotten it.
I probably would have still.
Well, Paisley would have been very, very mad at me.
But yes, after we stopped at Miniature Market, we then went on to BasementCon, and that night we played Pericles
from GMT Games.
Yes, and so we played. Brian didn't come with us, but like he followed us there. He played. We played. It was you, me, Mike, and Brian. Played a 4-player game of Pericles, and I still don't know what I'm doing in that game, but I enjoy doing it.
Well, and it's so funny.
It's great.
The system is very unique. It's that Great Statesman series where you're arguing over issues in the, what do they call it?
Oh, in the assembly.
The assembly. And it's a 4-player game, so there's 2 factions in the Athenian side. I was one. Was I the demagogue? And Brian was the
aristocrats.
Whatever they're called. And you're arguing over how to prosecute the war or the peace in the Senate, and then you're translating those issues that you've won out onto the strategic board, where that's where the pieces are set and moved, and you fight over areas, theaters they're called. And it's a very unique game. But when you say you don't know what you're doing, there was one guy on Twitter that took it as we're morons and don't know how to play the game, and he's like, so-and-so does a great tutorial. I know the mechanics of the game.
I understand the rules.
I don't know what I should be doing and how I should be doing it. You can't teach me that.
Yeah.
Especially somebody that's never played the game multiplayer, solo, you can't teach me anything about it. I'm sorry.
Well, and especially as that game is so reactive.
Yeah.
After the first couple of turns, or even like the first turn, once you start executing stuff, the board state will change drastically. That opens up avenues or closes them, and then all of a sudden, your little written tutorial guide that someone's got on the blog is totally out the window.
Yeah.
Whereas other games, that's much harder. Like you can plan a bit further ahead. What I picked up from this play was
I suck, but that's another thing.
That's also true. Was very different from Churchill. This one, I felt the team aspect of it much more in that you cannot afford to tie issues.
Yeah, when you're fighting so hard with your partner over an issue that you tie and that issue sits in the middle, you don't get it. So you're behind the 8 ball because now the other side had one more issue than you do.
Or 2. And that makes a massive difference. In Churchill, you don't have that problem. If it ties, no one gets it. It's kind of fine, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you have, you do them. But in this one, if both of us get all of our 7 or 8 issues, I've got 7 or 8 of those issues to put out.
I don't have enough strategos to fuel those issues.
Yeah, or if you only get 5 of those issues, I've got more of those issues to place out in the theaters, which means I'm going to out-activate you. I'm going to cover you up, and then I dictate the pace and the course of play.
Yeah. Which
the timing of the triggers of all of those is really important. And that was the one thing that I really saw in that game. Was like, you can't afford to bounce off of your opponent because you're going to lose to these opponents.
Right.
And that was a really neat revelation to see it. I felt like I hadn't seen the effects of that on our previous plays.
And I think in our play with Brian and myself, we fought too vehemently and tied multiple times, although we still won the game.
Yes.
The Athenians won the war. Brian beat me by 2 or 3 points, I think it was.
I think it was just 2.
And he took over the assembly, the lead faction at the end.
Having control at the end won it for him, yeah.
Got him 3 or 4 points, and he ended up winning. But you're correct. The other thing about that game, and we've talked about this in our other videos about it, the actions you're trying to do on the board are fueled by what's called strategos.
Yes.
Or strategos. They're tokens that you win by playing cards. You can get strategos, not even winning the issue, but playing the right card that matches the issue to get the numbers printed on that card. And if you don't have 7 or 8 of those, you cannot do what you need to do.
Yeah, it's neat. Well, it's quite a complex game in that you have your card economy that you're using to win the issues.
Yep.
Then you have an issue, which is your action economy for the theaters, and you have your actual strategos economy to pay for the things you do with the issues. There's lots of layers to it, which is why I remember the first time we played, I'm like, I have no idea what we're doing.
Well, I think a lot of times our confusion about how to prosecute what we want to do is because of the depth of the game.
Yes.
There's so many facets and so many small mini games inside the game that it makes it a challenge.
But it's so rewarding. I just enjoy playing that game.
Well, and we played the Suicide of Greece scenario, which I think was a 7-turn scenario.
Yeah, I think that's the whole game.
And we actually called it. Was at the end of 5?
So I think something
because
like that.
Because
it was very late and
midnight on a Thursday night, and we would have had 2 more rounds. I'm not sure much would have changed. Maybe Sparta would have taken another box or 2.
Yeah, we were in a tough spot with the way that Corinth had gone. It was
well. The other thing about that game is Sparta and their ground troops are unbelievable.
They're very strong.
Athens and their naval power is unbelievable. If you ever get into a big land battle with the Spartans are going to win more often than not, and the same with the naval.
Yeah, it's really hard. The asymmetry of the pieces is great in that game because it's really fascinating.
That Isthmus of Corinth is kind of the space in between Sparta and Athens, and it's always up for. You move in there with your land troops. You build 2 or 3 bases.
That's where kind of the meat grinder can be.
Yep. I moved my ships over, and we crushed your ships. And because we did so many hits to you, you had to take losses on those bases, and then you were back to square one, and you had to do. It's just so fun. I enjoyed that game. We started at 5, we ended at midnight, and got through 5 turns.
Yeah.
We were teaching a new player. We were also kind of bringing ourselves back along.
I think our return for that game is fairly reasonable.
I would agree.
If you know what you're doing. Because there's a lot of steps.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Mark, that's one of his finest, and it's just very good.
Yeah, so that was Thursday. Then Friday, we played... we played Europa Universalis. We got there in the morning.
The Price of Power.
The Price of Power,
It's the new edition.
New board game from EJ Games. Huge, both spatially and also lengthwise. This big civ building game. It goes from...
It really is a 4X game. I mean, it's got Explore, it's got Eradication, it's got Develop. I mean, it's really a 4X game.
Yeah, but you don't explore unknown tiles like you do in a lot of those. But it's huge, right? So Europa Universalis EU4 is a computer game from Paradox, which is a huge detailed game, and they tried to boil that essence down into this. So it goes from 1444 all the way up to 1820 if you have the deluxe edition, which is what we have,
right?
Which can play up to 6 people. And we played it with 5 people, I believe.
Yep.
And I was warned in advance that this game is incredibly long, and it is. So I was expecting to not get very far into the game, and that's pretty much it. we learned as well. We tried to learn the game. I'm not going to say that I learned it because I don't know.
No, and I think all of our comments, I want to say this before, all of our comments should be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
After one play with 5 brand new players of a totally new game.
Of us learning this.
It's a very involved, very deep, very heavy game.
Yes. So it is incredibly complex.
Hence, it's a computer game.
Yes. And the complexity comes from, funnily enough, what I talked about in Pericles, the different layers. There are so many layers of things that interact with each other. And there's also so many steps of things that you have to get through to achieve certain things. It's very detailed. As such, when you're learning it, like there are some games you kind of like, hey, let's learn as we go, and we kind of half did that, but you really can't do that because you're going to take an action here, and it costs you this and this, but then you need to spend this to do this, which then also you have to have had this, but how do I have done that to got this? There's so many interweaving parts to it.
Yeah.
You have to have read that incredibly dense 45-page rule book, and frankly, so does everyone else at the table.
Well, and read it and cliff noted it and highlighted, and because there are a lot of exceptions as well.
Yeah. Now, that level of deepness and richness, there are people out there who love it.
Who live for
it's
that.
great.
Yep.
The other aspect of that game is incredibly long playtime. I think even if you have the 4-player game, the game might be a little bit shorter, just fewer players.
Yeah.
What I have heard is if you kind of know what you're doing, one age takes 6 to 8 hours. We had 5 players and we didn't know what we were doing, we played half an age. It took us about 10 hours.
Yeah.
And it was...
We played a little more than half, but yes.
Yeah, like
half an age, and it was 10 hours later.
So just know that. Like, this is...
Yep.
It's not one of those games where it's like, oh, if we plan out a whole day, we can do the whole thing.
It's a weekend.
You still can't do that yet.
No.
It's a weekend or a long weekend at best to kind of get that thing done, because it's also very strenuous on your mind. So you're never like, oh, just do this thing. Like, it's always constantly looking in the rules, making sure how the other things interact, making sure you did it right. Because it's also one of those games where if you mess something up, the knock-on effects are like, well, you messed up your economy here, you also messed up your monarch power action economy, you wouldn't have had that leader because of this, that, and this.
Yeah.
Like,
very hard to undo a mistake.
Very hard to walk things back if you've gone on a couple turns.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a tough one.
The thing that I really liked about the game, it is in that here I stand period.
That's when it starts, yeah.
Right. 14th and 15th century, and it's all those powers are involved. You know, I was Russia, you were Ottomans, one of the guys was Poland.
Yeah, Poland, Austria, and Sweden. That's the
right.
5-player scenario.
And it was interesting. So it's in that time period. It's very deep thematically. You can feel that. You can see it.
Yep.
The production's over the top.
The production's fantastic.
The map is great. The pieces are fantastic. Very few just wooden counters. Everything's a nice either wooden disc or
and they're embossed with
they're embossed.
Stuff
Very nice. I really enjoyed the action economy in your 3 different areas. So you have military, you have what's called administrative, and then you have diplomatic. And you have a certain amount of cubes that you can gain based on what your leaders and advisors are. And then you have to spend those, and you have to spend those wisely to do what you want to do that round or turn. I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
The management of those 3 boxes, trying to figure out how I was going to put my very few cards. I thought that was I thought, give me a couple more cards.
That's so expensive.
Because they were so expensive,
Yeah.
you had to pay 3 to keep them.
And that's the thing. I don't think in that no one mechanic is complicated. It's that there are 65 mechanics in it.
Right.
That's the thing with that game. And if you want to do that, it's totally fine. But there is also a reason why it was a computer game to take care of all of that for you.
To kind of abstract a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy managing those boxes. I felt the game suffered in a couple of areas. One, the setup, we were all so far apart, and it was 2 or 3 countries, but we never really came into contact with. We started to.
Yeah.
I wish we would have just had a fast forward button and get me up to the point where we were on each other.
And this is not unique to Europa Universalis. We talk about
a
this
lot
with
of those games. Yeah.
Big multiplayer Civ builders. Yeah, it's called a Civ builder because you want to build your Civ.
Right.
But also, like, just start us
a little closer,
a little further advanced.
Yeah.
And then we're immediately in the action of fighting or having to do diplomacy and building the text to outdo you guys. You know, you could start 100 years earlier and you'd be fine.
Right.
You could do that.
But I think it suffers from that a little bit. The other thing I think it suffers from is just takes too long.
It's incredibly long.
When you play a game like that, and a round is basically everybody spending their action economy, and then taking an event and then passing. Not in that order necessarily, but it's just so long.
Yeah. Yes, very.
We played 3 or 4 hours per each of those, and it was just too long for me.
And imagine you've got 6 players and you play the whole grand campaign that's 4 ages. Like, that's a week of play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I did like about that game, as much as there's so many layers and things like that, is that game has a lot of options.
Yes.
You know, you can focus on whatever you want to do, really. And there's like some power struggles, which you kind of, that's like hey, for this round, you kind of need to do this. If you're involved in that, you won't be involved in all of them. To give you a little bit of kind of micro focus. But each individual power has their individual deck of mission goals, and you're trying to progress through those, and those are historically themed, and they link to one another, and that's really neat. So that you don't do too anachronistically things. You're rewarded for doing historical things. But then, like, I think about what Austria and Poland were doing, where they were doing lots of influence and marriages, and then vassalizing people, and then like subjugating them, whereas I, as the Ottomans, wasn't doing any of that.
You were sieging.
I was doing it militarily. Like, it had the same effects at the end of it.
Yeah,
but it was
different way.
prosecuting the game in a totally different way, and I appreciated that a game could do that with all those different options, and you could do it however you wanted to.
Yeah,
because they could equally have done it that way too. And I could have done it their way, but having different options like that that is nice.
Yeah,
for a big game like that. But yeah,
I like the cards. I like how, the cards were multi-purpose. You could make them your ruler, or a general, or an advisor. You could play them for the event, and they were important. I also liked that each of the different types of decks had about a dozen different cards in it.
At most.
And it had 3 or 4 of each type.
Yeah.
And that was kind of interesting because it created some interesting dynamics. When someone would play like a subterfuge card that would allow you to make an alliance or make a vassal, boy, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got to do my change focus to get that card out of the discard.
Yeah, you can go and fish for that.
And that was kind of cool. But I thought overall, all those cool and interesting and deep and very involved mechanics made for a very long playtime.
Yes, it was very slow paced. Very slow paced.
And I just think people need to be aware of that before they get into it. You're going to spend a couple $100 and you're going to get a fantastic product. It's gorgeous.
Yep.
But it's going to be very long to play. You're not going to get this out every weekend. and play through a full game with your friends. You're not going to be able to do it.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do a full review on that game probably, and talk about some other games that it compares to.
I'm glad we played it.
Yes, absolutely. But like, yeah.
It was
very,
too long.
very, 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 very long. It's unrealistic that we will play that.
So that was about 6 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah, we played that probably about 8-9 hours, and then we called it. And then after that we played. That was Friday, right?
Yes.
After that we played Eclipse, which we had picked up at Miniature Market. So it was second edition of Eclipse.
What's it called?
Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
So
Eclipse is a 4X style sci-fi game that we've loved for years.
Yeah, well, I've got the first edition, and I got a bunch of Litco stuff from Poland, and kind of pimped it all out. Got most of the expansions for it.
Guess what? I'm going to get that now.
Yes, I will donate that to you because the second edition has most of that stuff in it already. And it's a game that we played a bunch, and I love it. I think you love it.
Oh, I love it.
And always have a good time with it because it's that sci-fi 4X game
that plays in 3 hours.
3 hours. Instead of the 6 or 7 you need for Twilight Imperium.
Right.
So
which is also awesome.
Yeah, it's also awesome, but it's easier to get this to the table. I think it's less intimidating for people. And so we played that 5-player. That was a blast. And it was, the rules really haven't changed that much. There's a few changes in it.
The dice are different.
The dice are different,
combat,
but it's
better.
Yes,
I like it.
And but most of it was so it was so familiar. It was nice to kind of set up a game and be like, oh yeah, I know how to play this. That's always fun, and just a good time.
Well, and it's one of those games too that there's a lot of laugh out loud moments.
Yeah.
There's a lot of combat. You're combating neutral forces. I think they're called ancient ones.
Well, there's different types, but neutral ones.
They're just ancient alien races that you come into contact with, and they control these areas, and if you want to expand in there, you got to take them out.
Yep.
So you got to build some military. You don't have to become Genghis Khan of the stars or anything, but you want to build some military so you can take them out, and then you're settling your planets.
Yeah.
Trying to develop technologies. The technologies are the best part in that game.
Yeah, that's the great thing is you have all your different ship type blueprints. You research all these technologies, and the technologies give you wildly different powers. You can get all sorts of different cool upgrades for your ships. So all of a sudden your ships are totally different to everyone else's.
And as opposed to something like Space Empires, when you upgrade that, all your ships have it.
Yeah, it's much
just
simpler
make it simpler.
than that. But or you can focus on more economic or scientific benefits, where you're getting advanced labs and advanced economy and building the orbitals. You can focus more on that to get some more, to win economically instead of militarily.
Yep.
And so again, lots of variety. Just always have fun with that game. And
that
3 hours.
And that second edition is beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice.
Each faction has their own unique ships, which is very different than the first one. Very cool.
Yeah.
And they changed the combat, which was it's a good change.
But it's still very familiar.
Yes.
It's they just changed how some of that executes, which is very good.
Yeah.
But you can still get some crazy results. So I think we had a dreadnought went up against a cruiser, but the cruiser had the blue missiles that they'd got from a rare tech, shot them all, and the dreadnought was wasted before they could even shoot, even though the dreadnought was beefy. It was just he had a really good roll, and it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
So you get still get some fun gamey moments like that. It's really good. I really enjoyed that. That was Friday. It was nice to end on something that was a bit less strenuous.
Yes,
for sure.
But still, I mean, it's a meaty game, 3 hours.
Yes,
but it's fun. Yes. I enjoyed it. Always do.
We'll take that to somewhere,
to
conventions, especially the new editions. It's nice. And then we did Saturday, which was our last day at BasementCon.
Kind of sad that it was the last day.
Very sad, but we did all day 6-player Here I Stand.
Amazing.
And I think the more we play it, I'm inclined to agree with you that I think I like Here I Stand a little bit more than Virgin Queen.
Yes.
But Here I Stand might also be the greatest multiplayer war game of all time.
I'm not sure that's even, in my opinion, a question.
Like-
I absolutely believe it is the greatest experiential multiplayer war game you can ever play.
Yeah.
Period.
I love it so much.
Yep.
It's so, and that is a game that I don't care if I win.
Nope.
I care about playing it.
I mean, we were trying our best to win.
Oh yeah.
But in the end, I got second. I think you got third, maybe fourth. I don't care. It was a blast.
But like, there are some games where it's like, I want to win. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, and I'll be upset if I don't. That's rare, but there are ones like that.
Sure.
That one is like, I don't care, because the experience of playing it with 6
Yeah.
players is reward enough for itself. I don't have to have been the top dog.
And unfortunately, I think if you've played it, but you've played it less than 6 players, I think you're missing out.
Oh, without
Yeah,
doubt.
you need to play it 6 players, because then everybody has their own motivation. We've played it before 4 players.
It's
you
not good.
yeah, it's just not the same, because
It's good. But it's
somebody's
not as good.
controlling 2 factions, and those 2 factions are really helping each other, whereas normally they may not be helping each other at all.
And they're not directly helping each other, but they're not antagonizing each other.
It's just always a good time. I played the Habsburgs. I've never played the Habsburgs before.
Yes.
And it was a different experience, because they basically have 4 different fronts.
Yes.
They have 4 different focuses, and you got to do certain things, and you're up against the Ottomans, and it was a challenge, but I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad I got to play them, because now I understand a little bit more about, hey, when someone else plays them, here's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and so what can I offer them? How can I be
Right,
better
how can I
assistance?
treat with them?
Yes. And that's,
Loaning me ships is a good thing, by the way.
Here I stand, more than a lot of other games, rewards multiple plays and replaying it.
Yeah.
Because as you play each of the different factions, you understand that. You understand the nuance better of what they all need, because you needed that at some point. And so you can better treat with them, like you said. I felt like this game, even though we had 1 new player.
Yep. And he played the Ottomans, which I think is one of the more straightforward factions in the game.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think everyone makes the new guy play the Ottomans.
Isn't that the way it always seems to be?
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Right.
But most of us, he held his own very well.
Well, he's a war gamer.
He plays, so he knew, generally speaking, things they should be doing.
Yeah.
But the rest of us have played at least once or played games like that and played a lot. And so I felt much more comfortable with what a game looks like, the
Sure.
things I should and shouldn't be doing. And so I felt like this game, more than the previous plays, it was so rewarding, because I wasn't just sat in a rule book or like trying to figure out what's good and what's not. I felt like I just played it.
We still had to get into the rule book
to
understand combats and siege and assault.
There's always
movement.
questions,
Yeah.
and you just want to remind yourself.
Yeah.
But I felt like I played that game.
The best part of that game is always the negotiation and diplomacy part. Although I never know what to give, and I never know always what I want. But it is a unique experience. You can give anything, right? Cards,
Cards, mercenaries,
keys, right?
Yeah, you can do lots of
You
things.
can loan boats. I mean, it's very interesting. Yeah, giving mercenaries something is, I think the Habsburgs needed to ask for. That would have been nice.
But someone's got to give you them from the ones on their board.
I know. It's not like,
And so
you're taking my resources.
it's a big sacrifice.
Yep.
But yeah, I just love that game. I loved the play that we had of this.
Yeah.
I played as the French, never played as the French before.
Yep.
And it was a totally different experience from everything else that I've ever done with that game.
Yeah.
And it was really, really enjoyable.
I still enjoy the conquest and the colonization and exploration part of that game. It's always fun.
Yeah.
I got in there, the Habsburgs, man, they basically dominated Mexico and South America.
Yeah, I think you got all 3 of your conquests
and
very early.
That was a big part of my VPs. You also had to, France and you and me, Habsburgs and France, we were at war from the get-go. I took over Bordeaux, and we were talking about that. I probably should have done something else taking Mets. You know, I wanted to try something different than I've read online.
Well, and that's, I think that in this game, more than in some of the other times that we've played it, I saw some different things.
Yes.
And that was really enjoyable to see.
Very cool.
Like, you know, Habsburgs were trying some new things. Papacy was trying some new things.
He tried to win an auto victory with his keys, and he was almost there.
He nearly became like a military political power. That
we all
terrifying.
kind of fell asleep at the wheel.
But he had totally sacrificed the religious
war going on there. Basically, turn 3 and on. I don't think he did much of any. A little bit,
but it was fascinating to see because he almost pulled it out.
He did,
and then the Protestants, the Reformation went extremely well.
Yeah, he rolled 6s all the time.
But then, like, because he was doing so well in the religious war, he was like, "Well, I've got all these spare points."
After the Smalkaldic League was done,
let me do some military stuff.
Yep.
And he tried a gambit of
failed miserably.
trying to go and attack the Habsburgs in Vienna with a pincer move with the Ottomans, and it was like it was glorious to see something like that. Like, how is it smart? I don't know, probably not. If you could pull it off, though, it would have been hilarious.
Sure,
like that would you could never forget something like that.
Well, and for me, my exultant moment was I finally was able to get. I was assaulting Buddha. Right, and he came out in a field battle because I think he had 7 or 8 guys, and he couldn't fit them all in the fort. So he came out, and I had like 12 guys, or 10 plus 2 for Charles, and I rolled 12 dice. I asked the Pope to bless them because he was sitting to my right.
Yep.
He role played very well. He blew on the dice and did the sign of the cross, and sorry for those that's offensive. We're religious as well, but it was a role play moment. I then rolled those 12 dice and I got 7 hits.
You eliminated everyone in his deck. It was great.
Everybody was like, oh, it was just, that's what those games are about. Those exultant moments, those cheer out loud moments, or the groan moments. You know, when you're expecting someone to roll at least 2 or 3 hits to hurt that guy.
And they roll nothing.
But that's part of what the fun about that Here I Stand game is.
Yeah, it really is. So.
I love it. I love it. We played, so the English won at the end of turn 5. They got the Copernicus event.
Yes.
Which gave them 2 VP, put them over the max, they won.
Yeah, right, and that was like the last card of the game, and they won it. But yeah, it was a glorious game. It was a glorious weekend. My camera's about to die again.
I had a blast.
Just like to share our gaming experiences with you and appreciate you all guys for tuning in as well. And hopefully just get out there and play big games with people.
Take a chance.
Put yourself out there, get on the internet, text some people, make a post on BGG or on Facebook. Find people in your area, because I know we all say, oh, got no one to play with. You do.
Yeah.
You just don't know them yet. Go out there and find them, because you will find people to play with.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
And you may have to travel 4 hours like we did, but that's part of life.
And there's a ton of people in indie we could play with.
Yep, there is. But we need to do that.
This is just like this is on the schedule, and we're friends with these people.
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta travel and carve out a couple days, but the rewards of playing and enjoying these big games is well worth it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agreed.
But yes, thank you very much for sticking with us in our car, and it's all bumpy and shaky. But appreciate you tuning in. I'm Alexander from thePlayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.